The terms book banning, classroom censorship, and cancel culture are often present in the media. It's almost like everyone has a contrasting opinion that seems to be louder than the last. With all of the noise around these topics, it may be hard for one to see these issues clearly. Book banning is the action of removing literature that is seen as inappropriate, controversial, or explicit from libraries. Classroom censorship is similar to book banning. It deals with the elimination of certain topics from a classroom's curriculum. The controversies of book banning and classroom censorship can be described as forms of educational and literary cancel culture. The term cancel culture has gained popularity in recent years. Essentially, this term describes the act of denying one the ability to share their opinions. A result of cancel culture that is often seen as advantageous is that those that are in the wrong are no longer given a platform to share their opinions. The problem, however, with canceling disagreeing opinions is that people only see topics from one perspective, their own. Students need to understand the context behind people's words, thoughts, and actions. Knowing this, they will grow to be more tolerant of others and their choices. Schools around the country need to include diverse, controversial, and historical topics in their curriculums. Doing so will help students become more open-minded to the opinions of others, increase their worldviews to encourage them to make their own opinions on controversial issues, and build an academic atmosphere that seeks the balance of critical literacy rather than the scheme of cancel culture. While I discuss the integration of controversial literature and discussion into the classroom, I do not support the inclusion of explicit material. The speech's content is in support of the Iowa State Congress ruling to restrict access to explicitly obscene materials for minors in school libraries. This speech also follows the ruling of the Supreme Court case Island Tree School District versus Pico of 1982, which states, "Local school boards may not remove books from school libraries simply because they dislike the ideas contained in those books. No school district is permitted to remove a book from its shelves unless it contains material that isn't age appropriate for the students to read." The unfortunate problem with book banning is that the Supreme Court's decision is very broad. Sure, no books can be removed in a partisan or political manner, but what exactly is considered obscene, explicit, or inappropriate for students? The problem with book banning is that anyone can petition for a book to be banned, even if they have never read it. Many literary challengers begin by questioning the content of books. Topics that are considered mature, especially racism and slavery, are under fire consistently. Challengers may discover that a book in a school library contains a racial slur within its pages and jump to a conclusion that the entire book is racist. Jennifer Rossick, a teacher who fully supports the integration of controversial topics in the classroom, challenges petitioners by stating, quote, "Many censors do not read most or all of the text they challenge. Students must learn to never isolate one word, sentence, or passage, but to consider the whole to properly analyze each part. By simply discounting a book as inappropriate or unsuitable reading material, challengers neglect the lessons that can be learned from the whole text. Context is necessary to not only understand why books contain things that readers may disagree with, but to show readers a glimpse into the eyes of the characters and people within the book." Respecting and sympathizing with different people and cultures is just one benefit of integrating diversity education into the classroom. Diverse education and literature broaden the worldviews of students. Students tend to mirror the ideas of their households. Teaching different ideas can help them see the world from not only the perspective of their household, but also the perspective of others. Students should be allowed to share their voices and opinions with the respect of their classmates in an academically supportive environment. Many parents, however, fear that schools will indoctrinate their children into woke political beliefs, going so far as to say that the takeover of many public schools is one of the largest threats to the United States' well-being. This is neither the goal nor the purpose of teaching differing perspectives on sensitive topics, theories, and opinions. Many researchers see controversial topics as ideal pedagogical tools to foster debate in the classroom. Rather than shutting students out from accessing information about these topics, schools need to integrate them into the curriculum to instruct students as to why some see them as wrong, outdated, or inappropriate, and let them form their own opinions on the subjects. These opinions may not match those of their peers. This is good. There must be a diversity of opinions in order for a healthy debate to take place. Many supporters of teaching varying perspectives in the classroom cite the idea of critical literacy. In essence, this idea is based on the fact that the only way one can understand the world in which they live is by becoming familiar with subjects that they agree on and subjects that they don't. Critical literacy is necessary for how one views those with opposing ideas not as enemies, but as fellow people. Stephen Hassad, a PhD author, believes that we need to lower the temperature of our social discourse. Simply canceling someone because we disagree with their position does nothing constructive. A constructive approach to disagreeing with others is to learn why they feel that way. The world in which we live is so quick to cancel and so slow to learn. If one were to shut out all opinions that disagree with them, they would be left with just one opinion, their own. Cancel culture has a funnel effect. It takes the world of opinions and narrows them down to a bite-sized, acceptable portion. Any contrasting ideas are cast aside. Critical literacy, on the other hand, opens the world for one to understand. Understanding the context and position of a text can help students implement critical literacy rather than cancel their peers. The question isn't about whether or not cancel culture works. Cancel culture does work. That has unfortunately been proven time and time again. It is an effective tool to remove the platform for someone to speak. Many have fallen victim to the harsh culture of canceling. Some, however, believe that cancel culture is stronger than critical literacy. In reality, cancel culture is easier than critical literacy because it involves very little effort. Anything that is seen as offensive is hastily cast aside without a second thought. In essence, though, cancel culture is simply a form of denial. There are real issues that need to be confronted. Instead of demonizing those with different opinions, students should be taught that, though they may not like their opinions, they should still accept the person's viewpoint as valid. It is imperative to not remove controversial books from school libraries or the classrooms. In fact, it is necessary to have these issues discussed openly and respectfully. Students learn best when they are taught the whole context of a certain subject. Students need to know the context of historical events and issues. Discussing often politicized subjects from a fair and balanced point of view will help students broaden their worldviews to be more understanding of others. Understanding context and broadening one's worldview can help to lessen the push of cancel culture. In a world of ever-changing opinions and issues, it is paramount that one listens to what others say. If one was to ignore what they didn't like, they would never learn from what they didn't know. It's not as though the students themselves aren't noticing the negative effects of unnecessary censorship in the classroom. Thomas Ullman, who happens to be a high school student himself, writes, "If we cannot teach the nation's youth about the problems of the past, they are bound to imitate them in the future." After all, how many times in history has censorship resulted in mass ignorance, war, or other drastic measures? It's time that we change how schools teach controversial topics. Banned books and heavy subjects need to be discussed in the classroom to allow students to understand the context of events. These events can help students broaden their worldviews past that of their home. Understanding the context of a text and having a broad worldview will help students seek the idea of critical literacy rather than cancel disagreeing opinions. The world succeeds more when learning is highly valued. It is up to every single person to make learning a high priority.